Right, so about a month ago, my 3-year-old daughter, Avia, was having fun outside with her brother and her cousin. Being children, enjoying their Sunday afternoon, out in the sun, out in nature. And it so happened that while they were playing, Avia ended up bouncing into one of the flowers, and the flowers had a thorn, and the thorn ended up in her finger, her small finger, baby finger. And of course, she came to us, and of course, we do our best, and we removed the thorn that was in her finger. And she went back and played because everything seems to be normal. The week passed, she came to church as normal, the Sabbath, everything normal. But it reached a point that she still complained about the hand. And so as a parent, again, my wife and I will both will look at the finger, but we're not seeing nothing in the finger, but we realize the finger, it's swollen. And as any parent, you'll be concerned, right? And so as being concerned parents, we carry her by the health center. And even them two in the health center, they look at it, and they wasn't seeing anything like no splinter into the hand, but of course they see the swollenness on it. And at which point they give her medication, and of course we go through the procedure of giving her the medication, and the medication was not working. The swelling still remained, right? It wasn't working. And so we decided to carry her at Mount Hope Hospital. As a result of the hand being swollen, they end up running tests in the hospital to make sure that there is no thorn or splinter remaining in the hand. So they run tests like X-ray, right, ultrasound, different types of tests to see if anything remains in her hand. They can clearly see that the hand is swollen. It's getting blue-black, as they do say, because all on top of her going up almost to her elbow is in pain when they squeeze her hand. So Avia was in total discomfort. And in which point now the doctor came to us, of course, to give us, the final synopsis of the whole situation. And the doctor said to us, well, they're not seeing anything in Avia's hand based on the ultrasound and the X-ray that they took. But what they can do is to cut the hand and remove the inflammation in the hand. Now, as any parents, you don't want to hear anybody telling you about no surgery, right? She's a 3-year-old child, a child that is happy running around, playing, so as a parent we are worried about when we hear the word surgery and you go and cut with child hand. So it brings a matter of concern to us. I watched my wife, the doctor watched us say that's the best thing we have to do is surgery to be able to. So we have to end up signing a paper now to give consent for them to cut her hand to drain out the inflammation. And so of course they gave Avia anesthetic, and we have to calm her down because she's crying, she's bawling. And so eventually she fell asleep. And my wife and I, we are there watching this surgeon cutting our child hand. And I could see my wife, her eyes is filled with tears, and you could see the concern, and we're just praying that God will work out everything because God is in charge, right? And so they cut her hand, and of course they drain out everything, and eventually they band up her hand and she wake up, right? And going through that whole process of seeing what my 3-year-old daughter went through, someone who's energetic, someone who loves playing, laughing, singing, dancing, having fun, is now going through this level of pain because of a thorn that just drew her in her finger. She could have lost her little finger. She could have lost that little finger, but thank God that God worked out everything in such a way that the surgery was successful. She could now move her little finger. She could now play and have fun. She could now, even in having family worship, she would testify of the goodness of God. That God keep her alive, that God, even though she went through the pain, but God still keep her hand and she could move her hand. And I'm saying this to say that we need to trust in our God. In spite of the situation we go through, in spite of the trials we go through, in spite of the pain we may go through, even as a family or even as individuals, we need to keep on holding on to our Lord and Savior.
In the end of May of this year, 2025, I was about my normal business, going to work as usual. I'd normally do some night shifts at a private hospital, so I went there. When I went to work the first night, I realized that I had a little sore throat. But we had salt, so I gargled with some salt water, and the following day when I went home, I took my little honey and lime. But the sore throat wasn't getting any better, but I had one more session of night shift to do, the third one. So I went to work and I made it through the shift and then got no relief, so I had to stay the whole day also. So I was in the institution for a while, but the sore throat was getting more and more painful, so I decided I'd just go home and get some, I'll take some bush and I'll draw that too and I'll think. But it didn't work, so the following morning I went to the hospital. Bright and early I went to Arima Hospital. Told them I had a sore throat that wasn't getting better, it was just getting worse, it was getting more painful. They look at it and they say, well, it looks a bit red, let's just give you some painkillers so you'll be able to handle it. I said, okay, I'll try it. I went home, but I could hardly swallow the painkillers because right now I find in trouble pain to swallow. But anyways, I took their advice, but early the following morning I got up about 3 o'clock and I realized I had a small swelling on my neck about the size of a joint of my finger. And I said, but that is not right. I headed back to the hospital. They transferred me to Mount Hope and I spent most of the day there waiting for the doctor to see me. But while I was waiting, I noticed the swelling keeps spreading, it kept getting worse. By the time the ENT specialist saw me late in the evening, they said to me, Miss, are you not having any problems breathing? I said, no. He said, this isn't looking good, you know. And your voice is changing, is it? I said, yes, my voice is changing, but I have no problems breathing. He said, Miss, your voice box is being squeezed right now. Your throat is narrowing. And if we wait much longer, you're going to be dead because your airway is being blocked up. And unless we put an artificial airway in right now, you wouldn't live. So call your relatives, let them know that you have to go to theater to put in an artificial airway and we cannot wait for them to come. If they come in time, no problem. If not, they see you after. I said, okay, I'll sign. So the next day when I got up, I let them know that I'm having some problems. I find a cough in a pus now. It's not only pain alone, but when I cough, I'm feeling something in my throat, so I'm coughing up and now with this pus I'm seeing coming out. They decided that I had to go to theater to do incision and drainage and wash out of the wound because of the pus that was coming up and what they saw. And the CT wasn't giving them much, just showing bubbles. But after they had told me that the bubbles that they were seeing was really the multiplication of a bacteria. It was a flesh-eating bacteria that had gotten into my throat. I would have breathed it in, or because of the hospital that I work is fully air conditioned, and if anything comes in there, it's in the system. So they said it was multi-resistant because when they put me to sleep and tried to wash it out and get rid of it, it just kept spreading. This flesh-eating bacteria kept spreading. My relatives were getting very concerned. Everybody was praying, the church was praying, but nothing was happening. I was in a medical coma, induced coma, for 2 weeks. It's only when I got up I found out that that was going on, and my relatives weren't taking it well. My husband wasn't taking it well. For having me out 2 weeks, nothing working, antibiotics not working, doctors saying, this is it, she's going to die, prepare to bury her. And my relatives not seeing normal. Everybody trying to get them to eat, they're not eating. But God brought me back. The doctors confessed, yes, it had to be God because we did all we could do and nothing was happening. And when we said you're going to the grave, the following day you started changing around. Your relatives said they're praying, the church was praying, we know the nurses here and all were praying for you. Because some of the nurses that work on the ward are nurses that I work with because I'm ICU trained. The nurses in the HDU know me too because we work together. So they praying too. They told me they had come every day to the bed and pray and hold my hand and all that, but I knew nothing of it. I was out. But when I got up, I got the news of all what happened. And I realized it's only God that brought me through that. Because they did all what they could do, they used all what they should use, and it wasn't working. But thank God, He said it's not time yet. And He said, let me show you, let the world see how good I am. You will be another test piece, as you normally are when you go into these situations. I always bring you out, and you know that. And everybody else will know. My family is happy that I came back to them, especially my husband, because he's not fully himself. He is weak. He was just recovering from surgery, and my son knows nothing about not having me around. When I got home, I couldn't do anything for myself. My relatives had to come cook, clean, everything for me. But thank God for good relatives. My sister, her niece, my nieces, my nephew, everybody came, they chipped in. And then I had my nurse, my niece is a nurse, she came and she did dressing. My batchmates came and everybody chipped in and everybody prayed, and we all celebrated for every step of the way.